What is next for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after going 9-8 this season, going to the NFL playoffs and defeating the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs and losing to the Detroit Lions? This team may have a bright future ahead of them, but at the same time, this could have just been a one-year outlier for this team. Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in this division. He's better than Bryce Young for right now. He's better than Desmond Ridder. He's better than Derek Carr right now as well. Baker Mayfield had 28 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And this is a guy that was a former first overall pick a couple of years ago for the Cleveland Browns. And he did not have that much success with the Cleveland Browns. Yes, he got them to the NFL playoffs, and they had some good moments here and there. But overall, it was a very weird tenure. He got coached up by Hugh Jackson, who was a terrible head coach. Freddie Kitchens was not ready to be a head coach of that team either. He just had a lot of bad things going his way. And then he finally got things going in the right direction. He tears a labrum in his non-throwing shoulder, and he tried to go out there and just play through the injury. And he didn't look good. And the Cleveland Browns pushed him out the door. They went with Deshaun Watson. And we have seen what happened over the last couple of seasons with Deshaun Watson. That's yet to be seen if Deshaun Watson be fully healthy with that team, what their ceiling can be. But they pushed him out the door for Deshaun Watson. They traded him to the Carolina Panthers, and he was so bad, they cut him at the halfway point in the season. He goes over to the Los Angeles Rams on short week's notice. He goes and he defeats the Las Vegas Raiders in very good fashion. And he has ended up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No one thought that Baker Mayfield was going to go out there and be a franchise type of quarterback with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually believed that, they would have gave him a 2 to 3 year deal. Instead, they gave him a 1 year deal with this team. And that's why we're at this point right now. Baker Mayfield went out there. He performed very well this season with this team. And I do think that Baker Mayfield can stick around for the next 2 to 3 years with this team. Is he just a placeholder at the quarterback position, or is he a franchise quarterback? I'll let you guys have that discussion in the comment section below. One thing that I can say in defense of Baker Mayfield, when you're going out there and you have the worst rushing offense in the NFL and your interior of the offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL, for you to get to the NFL playoffs and to win a playoff game is pretty good. And Baker Mayfield has done this multiple times before in his career, dealing with bad offensive lines, dealing with bad pressure up front. Will he have bad games where he throws for 2 to 3 interceptions? Yes, because he's a gunslinger. But I do think that Baker Mayfield has found a true home with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There is one thing that you want to take note of. Dave Canales will no longer be the offensive coordinator with this team. They're going to move over to Liam Cohen, who was a former offensive play caller for the Los Angeles Rams. He has that same Sean McVay type of thinking when it comes to getting the run game going, then work off the pass game. So they need that type of thinking moving forward. Even with Dave Canales, the run game was horrible. They were dead last. And Rashard White is not a bad running back with this team. The reason why the run game hasn't been good the last couple of years, their interior of their offensive line is horrible. Tristan Wirfs is an elite tackle in the NFL. I like him a lot at the left tackle position. That's just a personal preference. I've seen him up close and personal. He has looked very good. He's a mountain of a man. But the rest of the offensive line needs a lot of work. And going into free agency, when you re-sign Baker Mayfield, and hopefully when you re-sign Mike Evans, I'm going to get to him in just a second, you need to work on this offensive line. Aaron at the left guard position is not a good guard with this team. Robert Hainsey was never supposed to be a starting center with this team. You had another starting center at this spot that was supposed to come in and get things done, and Ryan Jensen, but he just retired. He missed all of last season dealing with an ACL injury, and he tried to come back and play against the Dallas Cowboys. He didn't look 100%, and he got hurt again in training camp towards ACL, and now he has retired. I wish him nothing but the best moving forward. But Robert Hainsey is not a good center with this team. Cody at the right guard position, he is young. Hopefully you can develop him over time, but right now he's not a good guard with this team. And Luke at the right tackle position, he isn't a horrible tackle. He has some solid moments here and there. He is definitely a starting type of caliber player in the NFL. He's just not an elite tackle at the right tackle spot. He can be better. I'm not going to get on him too much in this video. He had a lot of bad moments, but he's also had some solid moments as well. But the interior of this offensive line is just horrendous. The big plays that they got the run game came off the edge, running behind Tristan Wirfs, and came from running behind the right tackle as well. And Rashard White had 990 rushing yards on the season and 6 rushing touchdowns, but he averaged 3.6 yards a carry. So considering the fact that their run game was so terrible and Baker Mayfield went out there and he carried them over the top, you have to give him credit for that. And I also brought up Mike Evans a couple seconds ago. Mike Evans is a very good wide receiver, one of the best wide receivers in the game. He's had over 1,000 yards receiving every single season in his career. He is going to go down as one of, if not the best wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of all time. This season, 1,255 receiving yards, 13 receiving touchdowns, which was tied with Tyreek Hill in the NFL for the most receiving touchdowns, and he averaged 16 yards a catch. They went into the offseason, the previous offseason, they try to come down to the agreement. They say, hey, you know what? You're getting older. Let's see you go out there and prove yourself yet again. He has done it. You have to go out there and pay Mike Evans as well. And you do not want to see him walk away. I know that a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans are going to say, hey, he's homegrown. We developed him. He's been here since Jameis Winston. He's been here with Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's been here with Tom Brady. Now he's with Baker Mayfield. He's going to stick around. You never know with pro athletes. Look at what Tom Brady did a couple years ago. No one thought that he would have left the New England Patriots. The general manager had to sit down and keep him around because he is their most consistent offensive player, even more than Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans is phenomenal, and you want to keep him around. I know that he is getting older, but it is definitely other teams out there that are willing to pay him more money up front. Just pay him and get him going in the season. Mike Evans is going to go down as one of the best wide receivers of all time, and you definitely don't want to see him walk away. You have Chris Godwin on this team as well, 1,024 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Is still a very good wide receiver. Hasn't been that same wide receiver since he tore his ACL, but he has still been very good. He doesn't have the same juice in open field, but Chris Godwin is very good as well. And you look at a guy like Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer has some big plays, especially against the New Orleans Saints. Only 385 receiving yards on the season and 3 receiving touchdowns, but this is a guy that could be a very good number 3 wide receiver with this team moving forward. Unfortunately, Russell Gage wasn't able to play. Russell Gage suffered a knee injury, and I look at a guy like Russell Gage. You can move off of Russell Gage after this season. He hasn't been that breakout player with this team. They got him in free agency when he left the Atlanta Falcons. He hasn't been able to replicate that success. He was having a lot of off moments with Tom Brady, and he just hasn't been that good, reliable wide receiver with this team due to injuries and some other things as well. So you don't have to keep him around, but you need to fix the offensive line, bring back Mike Evans, and come down to an agreeable number with Baker Mayfield. I've been very critical about Baker Mayfield in the past, but I will say this right here about Baker Mayfield. I compare him a lot to Geno Smith. Geno Smith is a very good quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. He's solid. Oddly enough, Dave Canales has worked with Geno Smith and with Baker Mayfield. Geno Smith did not get a 4 to 5 year contract with the Seattle Seahawks, and I don't expect for Baker Mayfield to get that either. Get a 2 to 3 year deal, front load that contract. So next season, if he does not go out there and he does not play up the standard, you can move off of Baker Mayfield. And also remember this as well. You have Kyle Trask, but Baker Mayfield came in, and within the first couple of days of training camp, people already knew Kyle Trask is not going to be our long-term starter. It's going to be Baker Mayfield for now. So we will see. But that is something to take note of. They still have Kyle Trask in this roster. I'm not trying to make Kyle Trask a thing because, to be honest with you guys, I haven't seen him play in enough NFL action to get a true grade on him. But you want to bring back Baker Mayfield. And I look at the defense as well. 22nd in total defense, 28th in passing defense, but you were 5th in rushing defense. The secondary with this team was dead last at a certain point in time this season until Todd Bowles went and made some key adjustments. And I will say this about Todd Bowles. I still question him as a true head coach in the NFL. He's had some good moments in back-to-back seasons. He made the playoffs last season. He made the playoffs this season. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach because he's made some good moments. I'm not going to say that he's an elite head coach either. Todd Bowles has to go out there and continue to get this team going in the right direction. I do think moving forward that his job is safe, but if you come out in the next couple of years and this team doesn't look any better, they're going to be questioning Todd Bowles. But he has done a very good job of being in that head coaching spot with this team. He moved off of Byron Leftwich. He brought in Dave Canales. Dave Canales was a major hit. I'm hoping that Liam Cohen can be a major hit as well. The one thing that I will say about Todd Bowles, he blitzes way too much. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, it did work because that team did not have an answer for the blitz. But when you're going against a team like the Detroit Lions, in which they did in the playoffs, it bit them. And a lot of the reasons why he went out there and blitzed so much is because they did not have a consistent pass rusher with this team besides their rookie and Yaya Diaby. And Yaya Diaby led this team in sacks. He has 7.5 sacks on the season. Looked very good. Shaquille Barrett has some good moments here or there, but just a couple years ago, this man was a double-digit sack guy. Only 4.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. And I understand he had the torn Achilles. He hasn't been the same player since then. And he had a terrible incident that happened off the field involving one of his children. My prayers are with him. I understand that. But he has to be a better player moving forward with this team. Still a solid veteran to have around. They went out there and they paid him major money as well after he had that crazy season a couple years ago when Tom Brady first arrived on the scene. You can keep Shaquille Barrett around, but they need to get more pass rush out of him moving forward in terms of him bringing down the quarterback. And I look at a guy like Yaya, he's going to continue to get better as well up front. Like I mentioned before, the rushing defense is elite. Vita Vea is one of the best defensive tackles in the game. There is no reason to why a man that big should be moving as fast as he moves in open space. He is 6'4", 350 pounds, 5.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. And those sack numbers don't do him justice. He is always pushing the pocket when it comes to just getting to the quarterback. He is one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Kalijah Kancey is a very good defensive lineman as well. He's a first-round pick that you selected. Only 4 sacks on the season. Did miss some time. I do think moving forward, he's going to be a very excellent counterpart of having alongside Vita Vea as well. Devin White. I look at a guy like Devin White. It's very interesting because some people say, hey, he's a game wrecker. He's a guy that has all this potential. He's only had 2 good seasons with this team. 2. Well, you can really say 1. That playoff run that he had a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl and they won that Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs for that entire playoff run and that entire season, this kid was elite. And we look at him today, he is not the same linebacker with this team. He has not been consistent. It seems like his heart is out of it. It seems like he went out there, he got that Super Bowl, and he hasn't been the same player. He has to wake up. Yes, he made some big plays against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but the next week he did nothing on the field. You can't come out here one week and have 10 tackles, an interception, and a sack, and the next week you do nothing. You just have a pass deflection. He has to be more disruptive with this team. I don't know if it's a scheme thing that's going on with this kid, but you do have a top defensive mind in Todd Bowles. I'm worried about Devin White long term with this team. But this season, he was not good with this team at all. He was not consistent enough. Levante David was the best linebacker with this team, making tackles in space, 4.5 sacks, 86 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble. I think that you can keep him around as well, but he is getting older. And I look at the secondary with this team. Carlton Davis gave us some big plays this year. He did not look good this season. And a lot of that is because he was in one-on-one coverage. They blitzed a lot. They blitzed the safeties a lot. They blitzed the linebackers a lot. You're putting your cornerbacks on islands to where you have to deal with some of the best wide receivers in the game. But at the same time, this man would get burnt just off the line of scrimmage. He has to be better up close and personal. And the same with Jamel Dean as well. I think Jamel Dean's a number 2 corner at best. If he's your number 1 corner, you're doing something wrong. And you look at a guy like Antoine Winfield. Phenomenal season this season. He was their best defensive player this season. Antoine Winfield is going to get, when it's time for him to go out there and get paid, he's going to get a big time bag from this team. 12 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles on the season, and that was tied first in the NFL. And the forced fumbles that he was getting, it caused teams to not score and get touchbacks. Look at what happened in the Carolina Panthers game. DJ Chark is running down the field. He comes out of nowhere, punches the ball out of his hand. That's a touchback. That saves the team 6 points. The same thing that happened throughout the entire year with him. Just a phenomenal safety with this team and is great in tackling in space as well. But I will say this about Baker Mayfield before I let you guys go. He had a lot of bad moments this season against elite defensive linemen. And that wasn't on Baker Mayfield. You may look at that and say, hey, against elite teams, he isn't good. Their offensive line is part of the reason why he wasn't good. 2 things can be true. Baker Mayfield against elite level competition is not the same quarterback, but their offensive line isn't good either against elite level competition. Their offensive line did play better against the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoff game. They got completely destroyed by them in the first game in the regular season. In the second game, they did get their get back. And against the Detroit Lions, Baker Mayfield did have some bad moments, especially with the second interception that he threw. If he could just tone down on those plays, he just take better care of the football. And I do think that he can do that if you install that run game. Look at what happened when they beat the Steelers in the playoffs. In that entire run throughout the regular season, they had a consistent run game. He looked good. I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is a top 5 to top 10 quarterback, but he is the best option right now for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let me know in the comment section below what is next for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what is next for Baker Mayfield. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, when each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.